Welcome back to the Raw Christian Men's Podcast, a place for authentic, real-life discussion on faith, masculinity, and living as a Christian man in today's world. On this episode, we'll be talking about men's ministry within the church. With me today, as usual, I got Luke Rude. How you doing, Luke?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. How was your weekend?
Good.
Good? Do anything special? Anything crazy?
Just watched the Super Bowl game.
Yeah? How'd you like it?
Loved it.
You loved it?
Yes.
I'm guessing mainly the outcome.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't really. This is one of those games that I kind of wanted both teams to lose,
Yeah, me
if
too.
possible. But I'm
Philly was the lesser of the two evils.
exactly so I'm okay with it. I really wasn't even planning on watching it. It just happened to be on, and
Yeah.
I got bored, so I just sat down and watched. I think I ended up leaving to go to work about toward the end of the third quarter, but I was pretty happy, I'd say, with the outcome.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's all I really did. Other than work, I'd just kind of
Pretty much same here.
relax and watch the Super Bowl. So, let's go ahead and dive right in. It's going to be a little bit different today. It's just Luke and I. Our usual guests are all busy, so it might be more of a one-on-one or more of a monologue type podcast episode. So we'll just jump right in. Men's ministry within the church. Just how important is it? And I would say it's extremely vital, right?
Yeah.
As men, we are called to be the spiritual leaders of not just the church, but our own households. And I think, at least from I would say my observations is that there's too many churches that lack that mentorship or that lack that building up of the men within the church to either hold them accountable or to give them the tools that they need, the encouragement, whatever, to just step out and make sure that they can be the best spiritual leaders of, the church and their home.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything different, or have you seen anything as a younger observer of the church, as you're starting to get? I would say you're starting to come to that age where you need to start thinking about it, at least.
Yeah.
What are your observations?
I've noticed some people my age are kind of more lenient to get into it at first. Whereas me, I like to help out a lot.
Yeah.
Even if there isn't help that needs needed. I'm usually the guy that says, hey, you need help. So that's kind of how I got into co-teaching that class with Tristan.
Yeah.
I just asked him, hey, if you need help, I can help co-teach it with you.
And that's great that you're stepping out like that. But have you noticed, as far as like opportunities for men within I guess we could just talk about our church in general, but like within the Christian church in general?
Our church, there's plenty of opportunities if you want to get involved. Like we just recently, about month and a half, 2 months ago, we concluded our 6-month long leadership class. That started when a few people from is it E3 or E2?
E2.
E2 came over and had a presentation for us. You had an option to sign in for it. I know you were on it, but I think you got too busy working and stuff.
Yeah, I had between work and boys,
Yeah.
football and everything.
That was an option for men in the church to go into. And then there's a Sunday school class for every single age group before church starts. Not just for men, but women as well.
So,
And that's also another option for men to get into it, ministry.
and I've noticed that as far as us, I think that the opportunities for men to get involved within church they're definitely increasing compared to when I would say your age. I started coming here when my wife and I were dating in high school. This was her church. Kind of seeing how everything worked and how, all the men and stuff operated. And it was kind of like your traditional, like you had your elders and your deacons, and then a lot of the behind the scenes stuff seemed to be ran by like the women.
The same people.
Yeah. Or it was the same people. Yeah. There, and then they'd ask for volunteers and everything to help out, but I feel like it was almost like more of the traditional roles that each, the men and the women would play during,
Yeah.
Helping out. Like the women would help out with like the cooking or the preparations and everything for whatever. And then the men would set up and tear down tables and chairs. I feel like it was about it. And then as we got back, or after we got back from the military, I feel like it was the same thing. And I was trying to like, find the place where I could kind of fit in as far as my role. And I feel like recently, I think it was probably about a year or so ago, like I brought it up to a couple elders and even Bill. I felt like we were really lacking a men's ministry here. Like we didn't have anything that catered specifically to men to give them the tools that I felt like they needed.
Yeah.
And of course, what's Bill's usual go-to when you'd bring up an idea for a ministry or a group or whatever? He's like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
You're in charge. And that's exactly what I didn't want to happen. So I was very hesitant, but it kept getting pushed on me and laid on my heart. And finally I brought it up, and I even said, like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to lead this, but I feel like we're very lacking in it. I'd be happy to help set up everything, but I don't want to lead this. And of course it was like, well,
You're doing it anyway.
if you're the one feeling like we need to start this, you're probably the one that needs to be leading it. But
Yeah.
and that kind of morphed into, the men's group, or like started off as like a men's group. And then that kind of morphed into our D group or Sunday school, the men's group, like the study. And then that kind of is morphing into what it is, like what we're seeing now, how we still have the men's Bible study that we just went through.
Yeah.
And then you have the younger adults that you're help teaching. And then we have the ones that just finished that Bible study that are moving on to additional studies. So it's almost like it's morphing into like smaller groups. And then this podcast came out from that that ministry. So it's great to kind of see where it's going. It's not really what I was expecting it to be. I thought it'd just be almost like what you think your traditional small group or men's ministry would be, where you get a group of guys together, once or twice a month and go do an activity or go eat dinner, which is what it started out to be. But it's kind of cool to see what it's morphing into. But we'll get into that in a little bit as far as like starting up one within your church or revamping if you already have a group for men. But as far as the importance of the men's ministry within the church, I saw, it was a while back, I saw the statistic where they said that if the father comes to Christ first within the family, that it's like 93% of the time, the rest of the family will follow suit. Whereas I believe if the mother is the first one to come to Christ, it drops to like 17% or something like that. And then if the children are the first ones, it's like single digits.
Wow.
So that's how imperative it is for the men to be involved in the ministry, as far as, as far as like sheer numbers of bringing people to Christ. But a healthy men's ministry within your church, it's going to help nurture that spiritual growth for those men, whether they've been in church their whole lives or they're brand new. It's going to help give them the space that they need to deepen the relationship with God, study scripture. You can get together and pray, build up that tool set that you need to be that spiritual leader within the home and within the church itself. Also helps with accountability.
Yeah.
Right. If you are, and I've found this with different groups that you can be a part of, or if you go through, like Great Banquet is pretty big to go through here in this area. I'm not going to do any spoilers for those who haven't attended, but like Great Banquet is during the Great Banquet, you're assigned to a table, a a group of men, and that's who you're with the entire weekend. And you do kind of have a sense of like almost like a brotherhood that does develop. There's some groups that either they were at the table together at the great banquet, or they just went to the same great banquet, and they went through years ago, and they're still meeting almost like a weekly or a monthly basis like today. It can be a very tight knit group that develops, but when you have that group of men that you can get together, you can minister to each other. There is that sense of accountability. Like, you don't want to let the other person down, but you know that if they're going to hold you accountable, especially if you're just starting out, if they're going to be the ones that hold you accountable, it's going to help keep you on that straight and narrow path that you need to be on until you start to get into a rhythm do you agree?
Yes, definitely.
So, like I said, it builds that sense of brotherhood. You can open up with each other. We've talked about this during the mental health episode, but like you can eventually, when the trust is developed, it's going to take a little bit of time, especially if you got some guys that are coming together that don't typically, I don't want to say mesh well together, but like don't typically
Hang out,
or they're not necessarily in the same circles at church, or like even if they're just brand new or different age gaps, all that stuff can play a factor, but there's got to be a little bit of time for that trust to build up. But once the trust is there, you're going to have men that are a lot more likely to open up and be more vulnerable with each other about whatever struggles are going on. That's where it's pivotal. Once that trust develops and you can be vulnerable, you can open up. You're not just holding each other accountable, but you're giving them an outlet, and they're not just like pushing it deep down inside. And we've talked about during the mental health episode. We talked about that during anger. It's a reoccurring theme about how men just like I can do it myself. I can take care of it myself. I don't need any help, or I don't want to feel weak. It just gives them that avenue to where it's guys that are going through or have already gone through the exact same thing that you're going through. You don't have to feel like you're alone. You get that sense of encouragement that you wouldn't normally get. It's just something. It's a special kind of feeling, or like a serious weight that just lifts up off of your shoulders when you feel like you're just going through something alone and just dragging you down. And then you got somebody that you find out that's going through the exact same thing or has already gone through it, and they can whether they can help you out or even just listen and let you get it off your chest. It's a major weight that can be lifted off of your shoulders. But we're battling a culture that glorifies sin and it glorifies selfishness. So that brotherhood is going to help combat that. You're going to be far less likely to go the way that culture wants you to go when you have men that are going to just keep you on that straight and narrow. Another thing that a strong men's ministry will help is it'll help foster that leadership and that leadership development. There's some men that are just natural leaders, and then there's some that are just kind of like very standoffish, not necessarily type B mindset, or
they're more of a follower.
Just very, I would say, quiet and reserved. Maybe they haven't necessarily thought too much about leadership. I've ran into people like that here in church or outside in my time in the military. Like, never really thought about leadership whatsoever. But you can kind of see the skill set is there, or like the rough. How do I say it? the mold is there, I guess. Like they haven't really. There's a lot of polishing and
Yeah.
stuff that needs to happen for them to develop into a good leader. But like the base necessities are there that they may not see in themselves. A good, strong men's ministry will help not just identify that, but can help go ahead and polish those rough edges and help bring out those leadership skills. But it might not even be the leadership within the church, but it'll help you develop the skills that you need to lead spiritually in your home.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I mean, that's as men, if you're married, if you have a family, whatever it is, as men, we are called by God to be the spiritual leaders of the home. So we have to, and I know it's so far outside of my comfort zone, and I feel like it's like that for a lot of people, but it was never, I mean, we weren't told it was going to be easy. You know, there's the exact opposite. We were told it was going to be uncomfortable. It was going to be hard. And we're going to be getting attacked, especially if we start doing, and we're on the right path and we're going the direction we're supposed to, and we're getting closer with God. We're going to start feeling those attacks. But that's where that men's ministry is going to be playing a huge part. It'll keep you on that straight and narrow. But ultimately, our main priority is to minister to our spouse, minister to our children, develop them into being, you know, a godly wife and a godly, you know, child, or give your children the tool set that they need to, when they do grow up and they do leave the house and they go and start their own family, that they are able to go and step into that godly role that they're supposed to be in. Do you have any thoughts so far? I know I'm rambling
Not
on right
really.
now.
You're good.
Okay. So we've kind of talked, so we definitely touched on the importance, and we kind of started talking about what a healthy men's ministry looks like, but let's dive into that a little bit more about what it's going to look like. It's an intentional space where men get together and they grow their faith. You're going to hold each other accountable, like we've said multiple times already. You're going to step up as leaders in your home, in your workplaces, your communities, and your church. Whether or not you have a family, the last command that Jesus gave us was, or before he ascended into heaven, was go and make disciples of all the nations, right?
Yeah.
The Great Commission. So true discipleship will start, I guess I would say the easiest way to start with true discipleship is within your home and then your church, or whatever. Like that's one thing that we're starting to do with our grow plan, is that we're trying to make disciples that go and make disciples, right? That was one of our mission statements. So
I can't remember. That might have been on the one we had Jerry on.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned the book. I can't remember. Like, there might have been like a tree farm. And it's like the making disciples part.
Yeah.
It's like you own a tree farm and then you plant those trees and then you pass it down to your son for him to plant more trees. And he'll pass it to his son and he'll plant more trees. And the more disciples you make, the more disciples they will make, and the more disciples they will make.
It's just a force multiplier.
Yeah.
So starting or with the healthy men's ministry, and you work on, you focusing on that discipleship within that group, and give them the tool set that they need and the confidence that they need, and they can go out and they can start with their families. So you get a handful of men, and then you got a handful of families, and then those, then that will multiply into, okay, well, the kids might be going and discipling to their school and their friends. Spouses going and discipling to their workplace, or to their friends, and the husband's going not, and after they've discipled to their family, they're discipling to, work and their friends, and then not everybody's going to be receptive, but it just takes like I said, planting that seed or planting that tree, and then something will sprout. So it starts. I truly believe that your discipleship is going to, a strong discipleship within the church is going to start with a healthy men's ministry.
And I will say, sorry,
No, you're good.
once you plant that seed, you can't just leave it and say, okay, it's good, it's going to grow. You got to maintain it too. Like you have to basically make checks on them like, hey, how you doing in your faith?
Yeah.
You can't just let them go on their own, because eventually that may lead to the plant withering out or them not keeping their faith.
And that's a good point. And we'll touch on that. We have an episode coming up that deals with discipleship and evangelism. But yeah, the important thing to know is that if you are going out and you're trying to be a disciple, you're trying to bring people to Christ. Not every attempt, obviously not every person that you go and disciple to is going to be receptive. Some of you are just going to shut down. Others, you're just kind of planting the seed. They're not going to necessarily sit there and break down and convert right there in front of you, but you can plant that seed, and then somebody else will come along, and then maybe somebody else comes along, or they get to thinking and they start reading, start listening to podcasts. They go and they reach out to somebody, but it just started with that little seed that you helped plant.
Yeah.
And then other times you might be that person that you go and you start to disciple somebody, and they're like, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I've been thinking about this for a while and it's been on my heart. And then now you just happen to come into at just the right time. And so there's different levels that are going to come as a result of being a disciple. The important thing is actually going out and doing it.
Yes, and not to take away from the discipleship episode, but certain people will require certain types of check-ins or ways to plant the seed.
Yeah.
Like the guy I work with, he said he doesn't really believe in like religion and stuff. Mm-hmm. I've been trying like every once in a while, just poke at him like, hey, here's the reason why you should believe. Just like every once in a while, I don't do it every time I see him.
Yeah.
Just because it'd probably get too repetitive. But every once in a while, I'll be like, hey, you thought about this again.
So, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you don't want to badger anybody, but
Yeah.
it's going to be more than just, hey,
A single conversation.
hey, can I talk to you about Jesus? I mean, that's a great place to start. But if they're receptive, or if they're like, even if they're like, oh, not right now, or it's not really my thing right now, but they're not like completely shutting you down. It's okay to keep, every now and then bring it up.
Yeah.
But don't just keep battering them over and over again, because some people do just completely shut down and they won't be receptive at all. But yeah, that is a whole nother episode, a whole nother topic that we'll dive deep into. But I truly believe that it starts, if you want to develop good, strong disciples, it's got to start in the church, and it will start with a strong men's ministry to help build up
For sure.
and make those disciples. It's not just showing up once a week to church. It's not just showing up and doing an hour or 45 minutes or whatever of Bible study beforehand. It's like you have to foster that relationship. You have to develop the relationship. Like it takes time. It takes building of trust. It's a lot. Like, it's not just a once a week thing. You have to put some blood, sweat, and tears into making a strong men's ministry to help build strong disciples.
For sure.
Another reason why it's important, though, is that men tend to isolate themselves, right? We've talked about it a little bit, but
yeah,
we tend to isolate ourselves. We think we can do everything on our own. Or if something starts to go wrong, what do? We shut down and, almost like hermit.
Yeah.
You know, we want to shut down, we want to be away from everybody. And just some people, that's just a good way to decompress. Even maybe a good way to recharge your batteries. But as far like if something's going wrong, typically our go-to is just to shut down, retreat from everybody. But a strong men's ministry will help that guy, excuse me, help that guy get whatever's weighing on him off of his chest, and then give him the tool set or give him the skills that he needs to get past it or to move on and to grow from whatever it is. So a strong men's ministry within your church will foster that good relationship to allow men to not feel like they're isolated, not feel like they're going through it alone. So we've talked about why it's important. We've talked about what a good ministry will look like. So now it's time to either like set it up, or we have something, but it's not really
Effective.
what I feel like it should be.
Yeah.
So I can only speak from the experience I have when we were starting this up, and I feel like we were starting it up from scratch. I think that there's been similar attempts in the past, but it was always like the traditional, hey, we're going to meet once a week and we're going to go out and we're going to have a bonfire, or we're going to have, this or that or whatever. And it's got to be more than that. It doesn't have to start out as more than that, but it's got to be more than that. And you got to keep on top of it. And it's extremely hard to maintain it when it's first starting. But once it starts to get some momentum and everything starts getting rolling and you get some people buying in, it's going to get easier. But the hard thing is to get it going. But in order to get it going, I would say the first thing you got to do, like if you're feeling like it's weighing on your heart of, I got to get this, or we got to get something started within our church, or we have this, but I feel like it's severely lacking. One of the first things you need to do is, well, obviously keep praying about it. And if it's continued to be on your heart, you need to go and you need to gauge interest, right? No sense of putting in a bunch of effort if you're not going to have anybody buying in and really wanting to take part. So you got to gauge interest. Walk around. For us, I know, like I was speaking to one of the elders about what I was envisioning, and he was kind of helped me break it down. And I know we initially started with, what is your like ideal, I guess if you're going like in the marketing terms, like what's your ideal customer type thing, so let's build up that ideal customer. So obviously like,
Or your target audience.
Yes. So you have like, well, obviously men, because it's a men's ministry. We're targeting men. Okay. Are you targeting a specific age group? Are you going to keep it open to everybody within the church? Because that could open up some, or I want to say cause issues, but it could make people feel apprehensive about either attending or going. For me, the reasons I felt like we needed a men's ministry is because I felt like there was at the tail end of a time where I was going through some stuff on my own, and I felt like I was alone when I was going through all of it. And I came to realize after, on the tail end of it, that I wasn't the only one that had gone through all this stuff or that was struggling with the stuff that I was struggling with. And I didn't want other men to feel that way. I wanted them to feel like, hey, I know that there's guys that have gone through this or that are going through this, and I'm not alone. I do have somebody that I can go and, approach about what I'm going through. And that was the biggest reason why I felt like we needed to set something up. So if that is your goal, then you got to also think about, okay, well, when I'm trying to get people to buy in, you have that age group that you're targeting, but also like, am I going to target somebody who's older, and then if they have a child, like I won't say child, but like an adult aged child, like honestly, your dad and you kind of fell within that age range. Your dad was a little bit maybe on the outside of it, but if we invited both you guys at the beginning, how likely are you to open up about stuff that you're going through if your dad is sitting right there? It can be kind of uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
So these are all things that you need to take into consideration.
It felt like being in the principal's office the entire time.
Yeah, and it doesn't help when your dad's a police officer, right?
Yeah.
I know exactly how you feel. So that's kind of one of the reasons why when we were starting ours, I felt like I wanted to have it wide enough to be accompany the men that we have in the church, but not so wide to feel like, okay, well, this person's my parents' age. I don't have a ton of stuff in common with them, or I don't feel comfortable opening up, or this, that, or the other. So that's kind of what narrowed down our age range to what it is now. But we also didn't want to have somebody that was so young and so, I would say, still pretty immature.
Yeah.
Coming in, and then that whole immature mindset could clash with the people that were there, that maybe in like late 20s, early 30s, whatever, who have, I would say, for the most part, mentally matured. So there can be some clashing there. So something you got to take into consideration is definitely is age. Are you having, family members being in the same group together? Which you can, but maybe if you get enough buy-in, that's when you maybe break it down into smaller groups, smaller demographics, I guess.
And if that demographic, like the smaller demographic, like my age group, there's not enough men in that group to be a full class. So we just open it to anyone within
that age group. Yeah.
So you may have that problem. That's one way to fix it.
And then the great thing about, if you are able to break it down, you can have one big men's ministry.
Yes.
Right. And then from there, maybe break it down into your smaller age demographics to where, like you said, there's not a ton of, I would say, the 18 to 22, 18 to 24 age group right now.
Correct.
Right? You do have some high schoolers, but typically what happens, people, and at least for our church, historically, you have the group of high schoolers that come up, they graduate, they go away to college. Few of them come back. Usually they're, if they're getting married, they're going to church. If they continue to go to church, they're going to church with their spouse, they go somewhere else, or what have you. We're trying to keep that from happening. We want them to come back, and they want younger families here. And I think we're starting to get stuff situated where we are attracting more younger families. But historically, that's been our issue. So we don't have that, I would say, that 18 to 22, fresh out of high school, fresh out of college. We don't have that demographic built up yet. But if we have that larger men's ministry, and we do have a couple that 18 to 22, you guys are still part of a larger group of, like, you're still considered, or you would still feel like you're part of the men within the church. But if you need to have that outlet, or you need to have that smaller group of men that you feel like you have more in common with in that age group, you still have that. Right. Yes. So you could have like 3, 4, 5 different age groups that make up your one larger group of, your men's ministry. This is so big though. After you start to develop this and you get your goal set, and you start to, you get some guys that are interested or whatever, you have to get people to buy in. If you don't get people to buy in to what you're doing, the ministry is going to fail. So how do you get buy-in from the congregation? I would say, especially for us, I think we've talked about it in it's been the past episode, but we have like 6 different generations within our church right now.
Yeah.
How can you get buy-in from enough men when you have that such a wide generational range, I guess. So that's where we definitely need the younger.
Because you can't
generation.
appeal to every single generation.
You're
at the
not
same
going
time.
to. If you try to appeal to any of them, you're going. Well, if you try to focus on 1 or 2 generations, you're going to isolate or anger or whatever other generations.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to make everybody happy, but you have to get enough buy-in from enough people to keep the group sustaining. That's the biggest thing is keep it sustaining in the beginning. It'll grow, it'll develop if you're doing everything right. If it's meant to be, if it's part of God's will for your church to have a men's ministry and you're focusing on the right things, it will grow and it'll develop. But you have to, how was it? Like, you have to get enough buy-in from enough men within the church. So keep it broad enough to where you're keeping multiple generations interested, right? And also, not everybody has the same personality types, right?
Yeah.
Have you been to churches or have you seen other men's ministries like where like when they focus on an outing or whatever, what typically is it?
Just the older men.
Well, you have your older men, but like what kind of activities do they focus on?
Like stuff that only men do, quote unquote.
Quote unquote men, right? Like, so we're going to have a camp out or we're going to have a bonfire or we're
A hiking trip.
Yeah, we're going to go hiking or we're going to do this or that. Like, there's a lot of guys that are just not outdoorsy. And I feel like, especially a lot of younger guys are starting to be like that, where they're not very, as far as like what I would consider outdoorsy.
Yeah.
You have a lot of guys like, you know what, my idea of a good time is, you know, just hanging out, going to dinner, or I like playing games or whatever. You have to take everybody into consideration. You can't just do those traditional male activities. Yes, you can do them, but you can't focus solely on that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So
A good one I just thought of this would be bowling or golf.
golf, yeah. And that's one of those things, like when you're talking and you're gauging interest, get an idea of what everybody is interested in. You're not going to have everybody attending every event, maybe, especially if it's something like a weenie roast or whatever, something.
Yeah.
You might have people show up, or everybody show up, you might not. It just depends on the demographic and personalities. But chances are you're going to have a group of guys that they're just not necessarily into that, what you would do, quote unquote, traditional manly things. So take that into consideration when you're planning your outings. And it doesn't have to be just outings. It can be like, hey, we're going to get together once a month and we're just going to go to somebody's house and we'll rotate houses and we'll just kind of, you know, hang out, we'll talk, and, you know, we might do like everybody brings a, you know, smoked meat dish or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and you can find creative events or creative activities to do to get everybody together. And then once they're together, I know the ones that we had when we were first starting out, and we started out just going and like picking a restaurant and going out to eat. And when we would get there, it started off just like small talk and, you know, everybody's kind of just relaxed, hanging out, having a good time. And then every time that we went out, as always, somebody would, well, I got something I need to talk about, or there's something that's been bothering me, or, you know, it always would, I would say, evolve into like a very deep conversation. So it doesn't have, you don't have to design everything to focus on that deep conversation. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I guess it could be in your living room. It can be on Sundays before church, like in a Sunday school. We've had some pretty good conversations just during that real life theology class.
Yeah. I have in my class too.
And it's, And it usually just takes one or two guys who have bought in to, open up or do whatever they need to do. And then everybody's like, okay, well, I see where this is going. And then they kind of, you're starting to get more and more buy-in as you go. But the big thing is, especially if you're just starting, try to avoid the activities where some men might feel like they're being excluded because of the type of activity. I know, but this is before we even had our ministry started. We would almost on a yearly basis go out and do skeet shooting, right? We do skeet shooting a lot. There's a lot of guys that are just either they're anti-gun or they're just not comfortable around guns or whatever. That's one of those polarizing activities.
Mm-hmm.
If that's all you're focusing on, you're going to exclude some of the men. And just because they might have a different personality trait than you doesn't mean that they won't be a good asset within your men's ministry. So you want to avoid excluding as many men as possible. And I would say lastly is just make sure just be patient. Be patient. Sure. It's going to take time. I would get frustrated when we were first starting ours because I'd feel like we'd reach out and be months before we could actually get together and do something because everybody's going to be busy. Everybody's got busy schedules nowadays. Everybody's doing, whether it's farming or family and sports or this, that, the other. As your ministry grows and you get more and more men participating, it'll be a lot easier to actually schedule something and actually get men to attend. But when you're starting out, and I would suggest when you're starting out, start out small. Pick 6, 8, 10 guys or whatever that fall within your demographic that you want to target and go after them, get them to buy in, and then that'll branch further and further and further out. We started out with, I would say 5 or 6 guys that we were targeting, and then we're at like 3 classes now. So it started I would love to see it get bigger.
Yeah.
Obviously, but we're definitely bigger as far as like a ministry than what we initially started a year or two ago. But be patient, and chances are it's not going to develop into what you have pictured in your mind. It definitely is not what I pictured. But it's going to develop into what God wants it to be. So, you have any advice for anybody listening that's starting one up or revamping?
If you feel like you want to be a leadership, but you're too hesitant to do it, just take it. Just
dive in.
Yeah.
Just dive in.
You'll eventually learn if you're cut out for it or not. And if you're not, that's okay. Someone that's in that class is for sure going to be cut out for it.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid.
And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Definitely.
Because what I have found during this, I would call it a journey, but chances are if it's being laid on your heart, it's probably being laid on some other people's hearts as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of silly as far as starting up the podcast. Excuse me. To me, it seemed silly. And I was like, man, is it really something that we should be doing within our church and starting up a podcast? And I kind of brought it up, and I think it was Austin's wife's like, it's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about starting up a podcast doing XYZ as, the theme. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. Kind of a coincidence. And then talking with Jason's wife, and she's like, we've been talking about trying to get the youth to start up a little podcast. And like, that's 3 people within like a relatively short time talking and feeling like about starting a podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, that's no longer a coincidence. We felt like it was a God thing. So run with it. Point being, if you feel it laid on your heart that this is something that your church needs, or that you feel like it's lacking, talk to somebody about it. Chances are somebody else feels the same way. If you feel like you need help, ask for help. Again, somebody's probably thought about it too. Get together, develop a plan. and just get it rolling. The pros definitely outweigh the cons. I feel like men's ministry within the Christian church in general is very lacking. But yeah, just be patient. Seek out advice from your elders, from your fellow man and within the church.
Don't be afraid to ask for help with people within your
Don't
group
be
either.
afraid to ask for help. So, I'll pull something up really quick about this podcast. Where's it at? I was just looking earlier. Is this episode 9 or?
I want to say this is 8.
I think 8's going to be dropping tomorrow, and 9.
Yeah, this is 9 then. Yeah, his
So-
anger was 7.
It seems like it's kind of a small milestone, but for me, I'm excited about it. We have 314 downloads.
That's
with only
awesome.
being 7 episodes currently out, we have 314 downloads. We are starting to spread a little bit globally, which is kind of cool. I never really pictured that.
I never thought I would get to that either.
Been Uganda, South Africa, the Bahamas, Canada, Australia, Great Britain. That's pretty cool to me. I mean, it's not much as far as like downloads in those countries, but it's something. So if this is something that you guys like and you want more of it, then subscribe to the podcast. Share it with your friends. Share it with the fellow man within your church, and share it with your wives. Share it with your girlfriend. It doesn't have to be.
sure.
I mean, yes, we are targeting men and the issues that men face, but these aren't just issues that only men need to know about. So,
Oh yeah,
I mean, share it with your church. Do whatever you need to do. We would love to have you guys spread this and get the word out. You can find us on our social media pages. So we got a Facebook page, we got Instagram. I don't think we don't have X or anything like that yet. I don't monitor that enough to really
me
start an
neither.
account. So, you can visit our social media pages and give that a like or follow. If there's an episode that or a topic that you want us to cover, I mean, drop us a comment, or you can email us at rawchristianmenspodcast@gmail.com.
Or if you want an episode where we just answer your questions, you can email us that as well.
We can. That'd be a pretty cool episode. If we can, if we get enough questions
A
lined up,
Q&A episode.
a little Q&A episode. But yeah, shoot us a message, shoot us an email. Tell us what you want us to talk about. I got a list of like 30 something topics that we're planning on talking about. But if I get some listeners telling me, hey, we want to hear this, we'll focus on that.
For sure.
So, we thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you guys keep doing that. And we hope that you're enjoying what you're getting out of us now.
We hope you're getting something out of it at least.
If one person is getting something out of it, I'm happy.
Me too.
When we started this, I kind of pictured that it would be more of like staying within our church, maybe a little bit outside in the community. I really wasn't picturing it getting big, but it's awesome seeing that we're starting to get outside of the country, and we would love for it to get bigger and spread the gospel more. So like, share, subscribe. That feels a little weird saying that, but
Like and subscribe.
like and subscribe
For more.
So, all right. Well, thanks, Luke, for hanging
Thanks
out
for
with
having me again.
All right. Well, you guys, we'll see you next time.